Good evening and welcome to our nightly telecast of Just the News, where we give you just the news without any of the drama or the shouting that comes with it. Today, before we begin, I will have to give you a trigger warning because the news is particularly distressing today. If you are experiencing anxiety about everything that's going on in our country, I would recommend you don't watch the news today. For the rest of you, let's get started. India reported 3,61,000 cases in the last 24 hours as of data updated on Wednesday morning. We also reported 3,293 deaths across the country in one day. Now, this is the first time that India or any other country in the world has reported more than 3,000 deaths since the pandemic began. And I'd ask your forgiveness, but I just want to give this number some perspective because we run the risk of this becoming a data point. But it's not a data point because every one of these 3,000 people is someone's loved one. To give you perspective, when New York faced the 9/11 attacks, which was a horrific attack in our recent memory, that attack killed 2,977 people. In India, we are losing more than that every day. On last count, 3,293 that we know of. This is also the 7th consecutive day that India has recorded more than 3 lakh cases per day. There has been a lot of development when it comes to vaccines. Registrations for vaccines for everyone above the age of 18 started today at 4 p.m. This is the third phase of the vaccination, which will be administered after the 1st of May. The registration began on the government website cowin.gov.in, but the portal crashed briefly at 4 o'clock when the registrations opened. There were also reports that people could only register on the portal but couldn't schedule their appointment. There's some confusion also about whether just the private sector will be allowed to administer these vaccines or whether they'll also be available in public sector and government hospitals. Remember, the first phase of vaccine was for healthcare workers, the second phase was for everybody above the age of 60, and then everyone above the age of 45, and now everyone above the age of 18 can also be vaccinated, provided we get some clarity. But in the meantime, the big question about the availability of vaccines remain. Several states are struggling with their availability. Maharashtra's Health Minister Rajesh Tope has said it's not clear whether the state will be able to start vaccinating people on the 1st of May because of the shortage. The state needs 12 crore vaccine doses in order to fully vaccinate the adult population. He said other 4 states that have also complained, Punjab, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, say they're facing acute shortages of vaccines. Punjab Health Minister Balbir Singh Sidhu has said the state government has made elaborate arrangements to vaccinate 3 lakh people a day, but they are facing a shortage right now. The Health Minister of Chhattisgarh has said for a population of 1.2 crore people above the age of 18, it would take 30 to 40 days to complete the drive if the centre provides enough vaccinations. Bana Gupta, Health Minister of Jharkhand, has said the state is being given stepmotherly treatment by the central government. The centre has hijacked the entire production capacity of the 2 vaccine manufacturers, he claimed. Meanwhile, vaccination against COVID for the age group of 18 to 44 will be carried out, we understand, only in private vaccination centres in Mumbai. This was announced by the BMC, the city corporation, today. Now, following the complaints by state governments about shortages of vaccines, the central government has released data today saying there are more than 1 crore doses given to these state governments and 8 lakh more doses will be distributed over the next 3 days. According to the data released by the government, Uttar Pradesh has more than 10 lakh doses, Maharashtra has 9.23 lakh, Bihar, Gujarat and Jharkhand are the 3 other states with the largest number of doses. Over the next 3 days, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Punjab, Delhi will receive 3 lakh doses from the centre. Now, drawing flack over the pricing of the vaccine Covishield and the difference between that pricing for the central government and state governments, the CEO of the Serum Institute of India, Adar Poonawalla, has said the price for state governments will be reduced to 300 rupees a dose. Taking to Twitter, he said, and I quote, "As a philanthropic gesture on behalf of Serum Institute of India, I hereby reduce the price for state governments from 400 to 300 rupees a dose, effective immediately. This will save thousands of crores of state funding going forward and will enable more vaccinations and save countless lives. Now, Adar Punawalla is also on record with CNBC TV 18 stating quite clearly that even at 150 rupees per dose, his company was making a profit. So there were questions raised as to why he was charging 400 rupees and 600 rupees for that same product in the middle of a pandemic. According to Reuters, India will receive its first batch of Sputnik 5 from Russia on the 1st of May. However, the exact number of vaccines that will be delivered in this first batch was not specified. Hyderabad-based Dr. Reddy's laboratory will procure the vaccines in collaboration with Russian Direct Investment Fund. The Delhi High Court has directed the Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi to file a report on the number of deaths of COVID-19 patients in hospitals and nursing homes due to the shortage of oxygen. The court has directed that the report be filed in 2 days and families of the deceased patients be compensated, as it was the state's responsibility. We're going into now information about deaths. So again, I offer you a trigger warning for this before we get started. New Delhi's crematoriums are struggling to cope with the number of dead. Many lying unattended on the floor and in parked vehicles, and relatives now saying they have to wait between 16 to 20 hours for a chance to cremate their dead. Reports have also now coming in of fights breaking out between families at crematoriums for an opportunity or a spot on which they can cremate their dead. Vinita Messe, the owner of Messe Funerals, told PTI, "I have not seen such a bad situation ever before in my life. People are moving with dead bodies of their loved ones from pillar to post. Almost all Delhi crematoriums are flooded with dead bodies." End quote. And this is after parking lots in the crematoriums were also converted into crematorium grounds. Delhi's municipality-run crematoriums have begun now running out of wood in order to required for the pyres on account of the rising number of cases, and they've asked for help from the State Forest Department to supply wood. According to the Hindustan Times, the largest crematorium in Delhi, the Nigambodh Ghat, would normally require about 6,000 to 8,000 kgs of wood per day. It has now risen up to 80,000 to 90,000 kilos of wood per day. The Deputy Conservator of Forests, North Division, Delhi, has also told the Hindustan Times that they've granted permission to cut the branches and the tops of at least 500 trees to meet the demand for wood. A severe shortage of oxygen on Tuesday, that is the 27th of April, reportedly led to the deaths of at least 7 COVID patients in Uttar Pradesh's Meerut district. 3 of them died in a private facility in Anand Hospital, and the rest apparently passed away at KMC Hospital. According to NDTV, hospitals in Meerut have asked the patients' families to arrange for oxygen themselves. According to the Indian Express, COVID patients in Noida, also in Uttar Pradesh, are running pillar to post to find hospital beds. Some patients managed to find a bed but were told there was no oxygen and ventilators, and so they should look for a different hospital. On contrary, the Noida administration has said that they are well prepared for the patient load. They've been quoted saying that administration has made a ward-like preparation to ensure medical facilities. There are 406 recoveries, and a number of patients getting discharged are even higher. The officials are making visits to hospitals on a regular basis. Capacity of beds are being increased as per demand. Audit of oxygen demand by hospital has also been ordered. End quote. Now, in spite of all of these reports, according to the Telegraph today, in an online meeting on Sunday evening, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Mr. Yogi Adityanath has asked senior administrative, police officers and divisional commissioners and inspector generals to crack down on hospitals and that are discharging patients saying that there is a shortage of oxygen or are complaining to the media about the crisis. According to an official quoted by the Telegraph, the Chief Minister said action must be initiated against hospitals that are putting up notices saying there's no oxygen and asking for patients to be shifted elsewhere. He said there should be a probe to establish whether they're deliberately trying to create panic, end quote. According to The Wire, the Uttar Pradesh's Amethi police have filed a criminal complaint against a man who used Twitter to appeal for an oxygen cylinder for his grandfather. The person had not mentioned if his grandfather had coronavirus on his tweet. He said that he basically needed a cylinder urgently for his grandfather. The police have filed an FIR against him, alleging that he was circulating a rumor with the intent to cause fear or alarm. According to the Indian Express, the police claimed the man was spreading misleading information. The police claimed that the person provided false information on oxygen supply and the coronavirus to target the Uttar Pradesh government. It is also known that the man's grandfather since has passed away. The Karnataka High Court has said the lack of availability of a sufficient number of beds for critically ill COVID patients in Bengaluru is an alarming situation. The bench noted that there has only been a marginal increase in the availability of beds in the city, and it's insufficient given the number of cases. The court has said the lack of medical facilities, beds, oxygen supply and key drugs like remdesivir are linked to the right to life enshrined in Article 21 of the Constitution. Earlier on the 23rd of April, the bench called the COVID situation in Bangalore shocking and scary. Bangalore Urban, on last count that has just come in, reported 22,596 COVID cases and 137 deaths. That is a shocking increase. According to a report by the Times of India, between the 1st of March and the 26th of April, the state government in Karnataka reported 1,422 COVID deaths in Bengaluru. But data collected by the TOI from 12 dedicated crematoriums reported 3,104 cremations that were done with COVID protocol over the same period. Now, the report is by a journalist called Chetan Kumar of the TOI. It says that he did not manage to count the smaller crematoriums or the Christian or the Muslim burial grounds. So this is just the large 12 crematoriums in the city. So even according to that report, if you discount 10% of those cases of those deaths for other causes, the number is still 100% different from what is being reported and what has been counted by the TOI. Earlier this month, there were similar instances of under-reporting that had popped up in the media of Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and of Delhi. The Madras High Court on Tuesday directed the central government and the state government to compensate, to provide an economic stimulus package to compensate employees of private and unorganized sectors who've lost their jobs because of the COVID-19 lockdown. The monetary loss suffered by employees in private and unorganized sectors and in educational institutions and industrial establishments because of the lockdowns under the Disaster Management Act should be compensated by governments by implementing an economic stimulus package, instructed the court. Let's take a look at some of the other news that's coming in right now. Despite the country reeling under COVID crisis, visuals of crowded election rallies came up today, and most people had to actually check if this was in fact true news or fake news. It turns out it is true. 7 urban local bodies, including 2 corporations, are going to polls on the 30th of April in Telangana. These elections continue despite COVID, and the election campaigning is on full swing. The State Election Commission had apparently directed candidates and parties to adhere to COVID-19 safety guidelines during the campaign, but people have been seen in these visuals very obviously flouting all the COVID rules in these rallies being conducted by both the BJP and the TRS, who have also tweeted visuals of their rallies on Twitter, sort of bragging about the size of their own rallies. The focus of the Uttarakhand government right now is on finalizing procedures and SOPs to be followed during the Char Dham Yatra, which will begin on the 14th of May. Now, the Char Dham Yatra is an annual pilgrimage to Kedarnath, Badrinath, Yamunotri and Gangotri, which has not been cancelled and will continue. Although the state government has said it's working on a fresh standard operating procedure for the 4-day Char Dham Yatra, which is yet to be issued by the government. Now, to give you a perspective on what's happening in Uttarakhand, on the 31st of March, the state had 1,800 about COVID cases. By the 27th of April, it has 43,033 cases reported so far. Taking a look at some of the restrictions that are being announced by state governments, Maharashtra lockdown restrictions in Maharashtra have now been extended for another 15 days until the 15th of March. It would originally have closed on the 1st of March. The Goa government has announced a lockdown in Goa starting tomorrow evening, that's Thursday, until Monday morning. Casinos and bars will be closed during this period. Restaurants will only be allowed to do home deliveries. There will be no restriction on essential services. The Goa Chief Minister has said if people do not step out for the next 4 days, we will be successful in breaking the chain of this surge. Well, moving on to other news outside of COVID. Following a notification from the central government, Delhi's Lieutenant Governor has become the in charge of Delhi. The elected Aam Aadmi Party government will have to seek his opinion before they make any decisions. The Lieutenant Governor effectively is an appointee of the central government. The Delhi government will now take permission from the LG before they take any action on subjects under its domain, which is effectively health, education, agriculture, forest and transport. This would likely lead to more chaos to begin with in a state that is already reeling under the worst possible health crisis one could imagine. An earthquake of the magnitude of 6.4 struck Assam this morning. Strong tremors were felt in all parts of northeast, including North Bengal. There have been no reports so far, thankfully, of any injury. Some property has been damaged. The Supreme Court has told the Uttar Pradesh government that Kerala journalist Siddique Kappan should be shifted to AIIMS or any other Delhi government hospital for treatment, after which, when he recovers, he can be taken back to the Mathura jail. This comes after the Kerala Union of Working Journalists alleged that Kappan was chained to his cot in a hospital and not even allowed to go to the bathroom. The Uttar Pradesh government said Kappan has tested negative and is being discharged. Remember, he was arrested in October last year when he was on his way to Hathras to report on the gang rape and the death of the 20-year-old woman. He has been accused of sedition and has been charged with UAPA. Despite the COVID crisis, the Central Vista project, which is the new Parliament building, construction continues as it has been now termed an essential service. The national capital is under complete lockdown starting the 19th of April. All construction has stopped. But 180 movement passes have been issued by the Deputy Commissioner of Police, New Delhi District, to the workers in the Central Vista project under the Essential Services category. This project is estimated to cost 20,000 crore rupees, and it continues despite the crisis that we're currently facing. News now from the rest of the world. The WHO has said the B1617 variant of COVID-19, first found in India, has now been detected in 17 other countries. The WHO has stressed that further robust studies into the characteristics of this variant is important to understand transmissibility, severity and the risk of infection. South Korea has said it will provide India with oxygen concentrators, COVID diagnostic kits and other aid items. Health officials have said the government will allow irregular flights to bring back South Korean citizens who might be in India right now. Away from COVID, Sri Lanka's cabinet has approved a proposal to ban all forms of face veils, including burqas, in public, basically citing national security grounds. The ban was proposed by the Minister of Public Security, who called these a sign of religious extremism. Muslims make up 9% of Sri Lanka's population. France, Belgium, Netherlands, Bulgaria, Switzerland have also banned the face coverings in public. The national capital of Delhi will host a match of the IPL between the Chennai Super Kings and the Sunrisers Hyderabad at the Arun Jaitley Stadium when the city is reeling under the grips of the virus. There have been several questions that are being asked right now about the amount of money and the energy that will be put into this IPL game at a time when Delhi right now is counting every ambulance and every test kit. These are the health facilities being provided to the players. Increased testing in the bio bubbles. Instead of the stipulated every 5 days, they now conduct a test every 2 days. So there will be test kits that will be given to to be used up in this game. BCCI in a letter also said the bio bubble will be strengthened so that the players are kept safe. But all of this is now being questioned because of standby ambulances that are likely to be used for the IPL match as well. Delhi on Tuesday reported 24,149 COVID infections and 381 deaths. Leaving you with one piece of positive information before we wrap up. Hyderabad's Osmania Medical College and Gandhi Medical College alumni, about 70 doctors, have started an initiative to provide telemedicine for mild COVID patients, which means you can call them and they'll tell you what to do. Each doctor is getting between 25 to 60 phone calls during their scheduled time. They will help monitor the patient's health, advise them on how to look after themselves and what sort of diet and medication to take and when to go to the hospital. This is really important. They aim to reduce the burden on healthcare workers and ensure patients are taken care of. Remember, this is the most important thing. If you do test positive, speak to a doctor immediately. It may not be necessary for you to go to hospital. You could likely be taken care of at home, and if you're able to do that, you will reduce the burden on healthcare workers. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. We have had a lot of input from you saying that you would like to hear these bulletins in different languages. Do leave us suggestions on how we can make that happen. We're a small team of 5 people, so this is right now full tilt of work that we're doing, but we would like to hear from you on what you would like more for us to do to improve this service. Thank you for watching. Good night.